Science, in its relentless quest to demystify reality, keeps pointing us toward an unsettling conclusion. The self doesn't really exist. At least, not in the way we think it does. Everything has its opposite, and the opposite of self is no self. The concept of no self is psychological equivalent of dark matter. Not a void, but an unseen current shaping us in ways we cannot perceive, yet feel in every quiet space between thoughts. Dark matter is the cosmic ghost that makes up 85% of the universe's mass, yet remains completely undetectable. Scientists can't see it, touch it, or measure it directly, but they know it's there because of its gravitational effects. It's not a passive background element, it's the scaffolding upon which galaxies are built. Just as dark matter is unseen, yet fundamentally shapes the structure and behavior of the cosmos, non-self suggests that much of our perceived identity is constructed from unseen forces. No self functions like dark matter in the human psyche. Trying to define yourself is like trying to bite your own teeth. We are looking for meaning in a structure that doesn't recognize individuals. The universe doesn't see you as separate from itself. The idea of an individual is something the mind imposes on an inherently borderless, centerless existence. No self isn't a psychological illusion or a neurological quirk. It's something that dissolves time, space, and identity itself. If we take no self seriously, we're not just talking about a lack of a fixed personality or ego. We're talking about the absolute absence of a central I in the fabric of reality. Time assumes a continuous you moving forward, like a bead sliding along a string. But what if this bead is just an illusion? The moment you deeply consider who you were before birth, or who you will be after death, something unsettling happens. The concept of you breaks down. The self feels real only because memory stitches it together. But is there a true, continuous I, or just a series of connected moments? From the perspective of no self, each moment is its own existence. What you call yourself right now is not the same entity that woke up this morning. Continuity is a mental construct, a survival trick. On a surface level, this sounds too much like pseudo-New Age science, but the term of no self dates back to the earliest teachings of Buddhism, around the 5th to 4th century BCE. We often think of no self as a psychological idea, the absence of ego. But let's take it a step further. If the psyche, thoughts, emotions, memories, are not the self, then what's left when it all falls away? Pure experience without a center. The wind moves, sound vibrates, colors shift. But who is perceiving? If no self is real, then experience happens, but not to anyone. There's no watcher behind the eyes. There is only seeing, hearing, being, without ownership. If no self applies at the individual level, does it apply to everything? The universe itself has no central identity either. The way galaxies form, dissolve, and reform could be the cosmic equivalent of thoughts flickering in and out of existence. There is no one universe. It's all an ever-changing field of reality. Like your own mind, it isn't a fixed entity, but a constant flux. If no self is real beyond psychology, beyond time, beyond even the structure of reality, then what is there to hold on to? Nothing. And that's the point. The universe doesn't need a self to exist. And neither do you. Neuroscientist Anil Seth describes the self as a controlled hallucination, a byproduct of predictive processing where the brain pieces together sensory inputs to generate the illusion of an observer. And therein lies the humor of it all. We take ourselves so seriously, clutching our identities like a toddler clutches a favorite stuffed animal, convinced it will provide comfort and security. I am a writer, a friend, a lover, we proclaim. Yet, in the grand scheme of the universe, these labels are as transient as a TikTok trend. One moment we're a viral sensation, the next a forgotten hashtag. It's like trying to catch smoke with our bare hands. Our identities slip through our fingers, leaving us wondering if we ever truly had them at all. Neuroscientist David Eagleman expands on this, saying that consciousness is like a team of rivals, a bunch of competing neural processes constantly negotiating what you should think, feel, or do. The self? It's just the winner of that argument in any given moment. A candle flame seems constant, but in reality, it's always changing. New wax melts, new fire ignites, and what appears to be a single steady glow is actually a process of continuous renewal. If you were to freeze a moment in time, you'd find that the flame you saw a second ago is not the same one flickering before you now. It is never fixed, never still, always in motion, always becoming. Yourself is no different. The person you were yesterday is not the person you are today. Even your physical body is shifting in ways so subtle you hardly notice. Heraclitus captured this in his famous words. You can't step into the same river twice. The river is always flowing, its water is never the same, just as you are always in motion, evolving, dissolving, reforming. And yet, even knowing this, we cling to the idea of a fixed self, a core identity that remains untouched by time. Maybe because it provides a sense of stability in an otherwise chaotic world. The illusion of a stable identity offers an anchor, a psychological safe harbor where we can rest amidst the relentless flow of change. But why do we hold on to this illusion so tightly? We cling to a fixed self because, in a world where everything shifts, we crave something that does not move. But what if the self is not a fortress, but a mirage? Nietzsche spoke of the will to power, but perhaps what we really have is the will to remain. The ego is not just a concept. It is a biochemical craving, reinforced by dopamine, by memory, by the need to wake up each morning and still know who we are. To let go of the self is to break an addiction so deep, even our cells revolt. We have art in order not to die of the truth. What if the truth is that we are but fleeting shadows, ephemeral beings, moving through the existence? We create identities, stories, and art to distract ourselves from the fact that, like characters in a novel, we might disappear when the final page is turned. Simone de Beauvoir noted, "One is not born, but rather becomes a woman." Let's extend this idea beyond gender and encompass the entire spectrum of identity. We are not born into ourselves. We are constantly creating and recreating them. When you let go of the need to define yourself, you open yourself up to connection in a deeper way. You start to see that everyone else is navigating this wild journey too, each person with their own struggles, fears, and insecurities. You become more empathetic and understanding, realizing that we're all in this cosmic soup together, just trying to figure it out. In the end, perhaps it's not about finding ourselves, but rather losing ourselves in the delightful absurdity of existence. Embrace the uncertainty, the confusion, and the sheer randomness of it all. After all, if you don't exist, what's the worst that could happen? You might just discover a life filled with laughter, joy, and the sweet realization that being is in itself an extraordinary adventure. As Borges wrote, "To fall in love is to create a religion with a fallible God." Perhaps identity is no different. Story we fabricate around ourselves, fragile yet sacred, rewritten endlessly, until we learn to let go of its weight and simply exist.